Have you ever felt like your personal growth or healing journey is something the people in your life don't understand? Do you feel unseen and unsupported by your loved ones as you heal? Do you find yourself feeling guilty for prioritizing your own healing and well-being? Do you sometimes feel like you're burdening others with your healing effort, even though it's something that's deeply important to you? A listener asked me, how do you deal with family and friends who don't understand your healing journey? They really don't know what to say, and you feel you shouldn't burden them with it. Are they only relating to you by their own flaws and wounding? And I think that that's such a common experience that many people have on their healing journey, which is feeling alone and unsupported and unseen. So in this episode, I'm going to discuss why healing can be isolating and why it can be misunderstood by the people closest to us. And also, I'll discuss how to overcome the outer and inner conflict that can arise when you embark on a healing journey alone. Welcome to The Simple Source, your source for all things self-love, self-healing, personal growth, and spirituality. I'm your host, Linda Valines. I used to be chronically sick and unhappy. I spent years trying anything and everything to heal, but I never got better. It wasn't until my late husband was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer that I finally stopped searching for the answers outside of myself and turned within. I taught myself how to truly love and heal myself, how to finally be authentically healthy and happy, mind, body, and soul. I have over 10 years of personal and professional self-healing and teaching experience. I'm a trauma-informed, certified holistic health and wellness coach, certified Ayurvedic counselor, and author. I healed myself of a lifetime of complex traumas and chronic conditions with joy and ease. Now I'm teaching you to do the same. So if you're ready to heal and love yourself more, mind, body, and soul, without all the struggle and stress, and with more joy and productivity, join me to liberate your highest, healthiest, and happiest self and learn how to thrive more simply. Let's get started with today's episode. So it's really common to experience relational changes and disappointment and conflict when you set off on a healing journey and the people in your life aren't choosing to heal themselves. And that can show up as someone you love criticizing, mocking, or even dismissing the new healing choices that you start to make when you begin to prioritize your mental health or spiritual growth, or you develop new habits like meditation or clean eating or journaling. They may view those changes as odd or weird or unnecessary or even selfish, and then you feel judged and you feel unsupported and alone. Also, if you try to set healthier boundaries, maybe a family member or a friend will feel rejected, or they'll take it personally because they grew accustomed to your lack of boundaries. They might react with frustration or pushback, and sometimes they'll even guilt trip you. If you start focusing on self-care, if you start saying no more often, or if you just simply spend more time alone in order to heal, then someone that you love might misconstrue that as you being selfish, and you becoming distant, and then they'll take that personally. Maybe someone tells you that you're being quote unquote overly sensitive, or you're like overreacting. Some of my faves, not really, that's sarcasm. Because you start to express your feelings more openly, and then that makes them more uncomfortable, and so they call you, sensitive, overreacting, etc. Maybe instead of listening or holding space, when you start a healing journey and expressing your healing experience, a friend of yours might start to offer unsolicited advice or try to give you solutions that don't actually align with your new healing mindset or your needs. And then You start to feel like your healing is a problem that needs to be fixed rather than a process that should be honored. Even subtle comments and jokes and behaviors from friends and family can reflect their discomfort or their disapproval through passive aggressiveness. I've certainly experienced loneliness and judgment and relational changes throughout my healing journey in varying degrees from various people in my life. As someone who is passionate and admittedly obsessed with healing and personal growth and spirituality, I'm not always in aligned company, unfortunately. And that's just because, there are people in my life that I've known for a very, very, very long time, and they're not on a healing journey. And sometimes I've felt like I've had to withhold certain parts of myself around those people because I know that their views and their lack of healing experience would potentially cause tension or be in conflict with mine. And I don't want to deal with the disagreement. I've also felt misunderstood by friends and certainly family since beginning a healing journey and investing in personal growth and my spiritual ascension. And that's okay. I'm okay with that now. I don't need to be understood anymore because I understand myself, but it used to bother me when I felt like people didn't understand what I was doing. But again, once you start to show up for yourself and you start to meet your needs, all that other stuff just doesn't matter anymore. At least it doesn't hold the same weight as it used to. But for sure, a healing journey can be isolating at times, but that's also part of the process. It's whether or not that solitude is rejuvenating and healing or diminishing and painful. And I've also had friendships change or my perception of certain friendships change. And that's also part of the healing process. As you heal, you learn more and more who is aligned with your highest good and who's not. You're going to learn who serves your authentic self, your health, your happiness, and who does not. You're going to have less tolerance for bullshit and for people in situations that are not aligned and that drain your energy and that make you feel small. And that within itself, that separation, that differentiation, that within itself can feel isolating. But if you are healing productively and healing what matters, meaning healing your root causes, getting to the core of you, examining the subconscious parts of you that are running your life, then that discernment and that cleansing is what it is actually quite invigorating and exciting. Because you start to understand how beautiful and sacred your personal healing journey is. Because the reward of you showing up for yourself in a healing manner, those rewards really outweigh all the stuff that naturally falls away, that is no longer aligned with your highest self and highest good. So why is healing so personal, so sacred? It's because everyone is unique, and their healing goals and needs and thus their healing journeys are unique to them. I firmly believe that healing is the most rewarding and liberating and life-affirming thing that you can do for yourself, and that it is the most wild endeavor that you can make in life because it results in your embodiment of your highest potential, your greatest joy, the most amazing love, your limitless power and magic, and everything that you want and you deserve flows effortlessly to you, and you stop struggling and suffering so much in life. And everyone's definition of freedom is different because everyone's wounds are unique to them. We all share common wounds, like probably codependency because it's so rampant. Everyone has shadow, everyone has an inner child, etc. but it's how those wounds were formed, what they mean to us personally, and also how they manifest in us that makes our healing journey toward our definition of freedom so sacred, so special. So how can you then honor your healing journey when the people in your life don't fully understand it? They don't see how sacred and special it is. You have to remember who you are healing for. You're healing for the wounded parts of yourself that need love and attention and care. You're healing for your wounded inner child and outer child, which is your inner teenager. You're healing for the parts of yourself that were not valued and seen, respected, and prioritized. And you're also healing for your future self. That's who you're healing for. We heal our past in service of our present and future because it's our past that's programmed our reality today. So even if people don't understand your healing journey, you have to understand it. You have to be connected to your why, to your values, to those inner parts of yourself that need attention, love, care, healing. And you have to learn to validate them, validate yourself. And that's how you protect the sacredness of your healing. Because when you start to understand who it is that you're healing for, meaning the parts of yourself that need healing, and you commit to healing those parts of yourself, you are naturally going to want to develop healthier, holistic boundaries. And your commitment to prioritizing yourself and your healing and your well-being and your joy, that commitment is going to feel like less of a struggle because you understand what all of that effort and energy really means and what it's going to do for you. And that essentially also means that you start showing up for yourself and for your life more authentically and less as your unconscious wounded self who self-sabotages, who keeps you small and hidden and keeps you reenacting those outdated wounded patterns from your past. Now, the first boundary you have to make is with yourself. This is so key, meaning what you will and will not allow in terms of how you treat yourself. That means learning to love yourself first, unconditionally, learning to keep promises to yourself, learning to treat yourself with integrity and respect, learning to give yourself grace and patience and forgiveness. Because how you treat yourself is the example for how other people treat you. And protecting the sacredness of your healing journey also means connecting with your highest self or your soul and honoring why you're alive in the first place. Because you are a soul who intended to learn and evolve through the human experience. And that part of you is infinite and limitless and pure and light and love and divine. And so when you connect to that divine aspect of yourself, then of course it's going to be easier to protect the sacredness of your healing journey. So when you start to connect with yourself, all of your parts, including your highest self, your perspective automatically shifts. And you automatically begin to relate to the other people in your life with less tension because you expect less from them. You're easier around them because you have more compassion for them, because you have developed compassion for yourself. You're going to need less external validation because you have already validated your own experience, your own existence, your own needs, your own soul. And that's really important to understand because so many people are just unconsciously seeking external validation all day long. It's so ingrained in us because we live in a codependent culture, and so many of us were raised in dysfunctional codependent households. That incessant need for external validation that so many people have is why the healing journey can sometimes feel isolating and disheartening when the people in our life are not immediately on board. Because if you don't get that external validation, meaning someone doesn't tell you that you did a good job, or that you are good enough or lovable, or you're worthy, or you're pretty, or they see you, they appreciate you, then your mood drops. Your day likely becomes shittier, and everything and everyone sucks then in some way because you didn't get that external validation. That's your inner child needing validation. Actually, let's go back. So that's your wounded inner child needing validation. So when you don't know how to self-validate or why you need to validate yourself, meaning you don't even understand your own wounds and you don't understand or appreciate your own unresolved traumas and fears, then you're not going to be able to meet your own needs. And the people in your life are then tasked with that, which isn't their responsibility because you're an adult, they're adults. And also, most people are so self-involved, operating from their wounds, from those unresolved fears and traumas. And so they're incapable of meeting your needs the way that you want anyways. And so you're going to continue to seek that external validation, and they're not going to be able to give it to you. And so then that cycle of relational dysfunction and dissatisfaction just ensues. And then you're going to continue to self-abandon in that vie and that effort and that pleading and that desperation for that external validation. You're probably going to put other people's needs and opinions of you and their emotions above your own. You're going to fixate on how people treat you, on how they talk to you, how they talk about you, and what they do or don't do, rather than focusing on how you treat yourself, how you talk to yourself, and what you do or do not do for yourself. And because you're so fixated on what other people are doing and what they're thinking about you and their opinions of you, how they're treating you, how they're disappointing you, you're missing the lesson that's being presented to you. You're not recognizing that the people in your life are just showing you yourself, because everyone is just a mirror to us. The whole world is a mirror to us. Everything in our outer world is a reflection of our inner world. So however people are showing up for you or not showing up for you is however you are showing up for yourself or not showing up for yourself. So whatever judgments people have about you that upset you, that irk you, that keep you up at night, those are actually the judgments that you have about yourself, whether or not you are conscious of that. And however you want to be understood and loved and valued is how you need to understand and appreciate and love and value yourself. So once you get to that point in your healing journey, when you stop taking everything personally and you understand, you know that how other people treat you is not about you and actually all about them, when you learn to see that every time you get activated by someone else is actually an instance when your soul is inviting you to witness an unhealed aspect of you, then your healing productivity accelerates rapidly and you free yourself from that codependent dynamic so many people are trapped in, which is, I'm going to do something for you so you can do something for me. In other words, I will validate you so you can validate me, which is really, I'm going to abandon myself so you can tell me or show me that I'm good enough or lovable or whole or worthy or attractive or capable, etc. So if you want to reclaim your autonomy in your healing journey and process, if you want to embody your authority and become less dependent on external validation to feel like your healing matters, then you have to learn how to validate yourself first. That means loving yourself unconditionally, which means accepting all aspects of yourself. And that also means trusting yourself and setting and maintaining personal boundaries with yourself as well as external boundaries. That means honoring your emotions. That means learning to regulate your own experience and develop a relationship with your soul and the parts of yourself that need validation and love and attention and healing, which is likely your inner child, your outer child, and your shadow. So when you learn to validate yourself, which is essentially nurturing the parts of yourself that need nurturing and meeting your own needs, then you inevitably become less activated by the people in your life because you become less dependent on them to feel whole, to feel lovable or good enough or beautiful or acceptable. You fill in the blank. And then what happens is then they also naturally become more supportive and more accepting because, again, your outer world is just a reflection of your inner world. So when you heal what needs to be healed within yourself, that healing is then reflected externally, which means your relationships will innately become more healing, more supportive, less isolating, because you're no longer operating from your outdated wounding. And another important aspect to resolving situations where you don't feel supported or understood by the people in your life when it comes to your healing and your growth is emotional health. This is so crucial because often shame and guilt and anger, resentment, and disappointment get suppressed. Let me share a truth with you now. I want you to listen and hear me out. You are not a burden. Your emotions matter. Your healing matters. Your experiences matter. Your existence matters. All of those feelings of guilt and shame belong to your wounded inner child who felt like a burden for having needs, for asking for help, for having emotions that were overwhelming to them, for not having the tools to deal with whatever they were forced to deal with. So it's so crucial to connect with those feelings in a healthy and a conscious manner so that you can process them and then release them in a healthy way, meaning feel them fully. And so you can then relieve your inner child of that wounded belief that you are a burden and that your existence doesn't matter. And that's all part of the self-validation, self-loving process. It's you acknowledging that your needs, your experience, your existence do matter and healing the parts of yourself that were led to believe otherwise. And those adverse childhood experiences and unresolved traumas that are driving that need for external validation. So you deal with your family and friends who don't understand your healing journey by dealing with yourself first. We can't expect other people to give us what we do not give ourselves. So when you develop that healing relationship with yourself, which is at the heart of a meaningful and productive healing journey, then your relationships with other people are naturally going to become more healing as well. Then there are unspoken expectations and biases and judgments and behaviors are going to have less of an effect on you because you will have satisfied your needs for yourself. You are going to feel supported. You're going to feel loved and seen because you will have supported and loved and seen yourself. Now, that's not to say that it isn't nice to be surrounded by people who do love and support our healing. Of course, that makes a difference. Of course, we all need and deserve that. But you have to make sure that you are meeting yourself where you need to be met before you can expect other people to do that too. Otherwise, you are showing up as that codependent, wounded version of yourself that is not in your power, not in your authenticity. So once you've established that healing relationship with yourself, you've learned how to self-validate, self-soothe, self-support, and you're still being met with criticism, or judgment or undesirable behavioral dynamics, then you have to practice being in your power, meaning in that embodied empowerment. That means you have to stop trying to control how people treat you or trying to control the choices that the people in your life make, and realize that you have control over yourself and the choices that you make, and that's what's important, and that's what is your responsibility. And it's how you respond to how other people treat you that's going to determine whether those relationship interactions disrupt your healing or invigorate it. You can unconsciously react from your wounding, or you can respond as your conscious, empowered, authentic, and highest self. You can engage with people who bring you down, or you can disengage. You can argue with people who are determined to disagree, or you can embrace silence. You can embrace peace. You can take things personally, or you cannot. To heal productively, of course, we all need and deserve a supportive community. Our community is fully under our control. The people who have access to us are people we give access to. So if you're interacting with someone who causes you repeated stress and distress, you have the choice to remove yourself from them. And yeah, that includes family and partners and friends. The only person that we're beholden to in this life is us. And that's not to say that we're going to go through life only thinking about ourselves and no one else matters. It just means that if you are not loyal to yourself, how can you expect anyone else in your life to be loyal to you as well? Because again, that relationship with yourself is reflected in your relationship with other people. I go way deep into that in the previous episode, so you should listen to that. I feel like I say that in every episode. Listen to the previous episode, but I really hope you do. It was such a good episode. Anywho, we have to be selective about who we allow into our lives. Our time in life is brief. It is so brief and so precious. Sharing our time and energy and space with people who do not serve our healing, our health, our joy, our growth is a waste of our time and energy and space. Just because someone has known you for a long time doesn't mean that they should continue to be in your life if that relationship no longer feels good or aligned. Again, we're not beholden to anyone but ourselves. Also, another important thing to remember is that we can't control how other people perceive us, and trying to is another not awesome use of our energy, because it's more codependent behavior and relating. If someone is intent on being avoidant or dismissive, critical, judgmental, or disagreeable, despite you showing up in your full power, you being at peace, you being in presence, then you gotta let them be who they are. Trying to control other people's opinions of us is more of that wounded need for external validation showing up as psychological and emotional manipulation. And that's definitely not healing for you or anyone else. You're never going to be at peace with yourself. You're never going to be at peace with your healing by trying to change someone else's opinion of you, or change their mindset, or change their behavior, or change them, or change how they relate to you. You only realize that peace by being true to yourself, regardless of what's happening on the outside. Once you embody that level of self-acceptance, that level of unconditional self-love, then it doesn't matter if your healing journey is understood or not, because again, you're not going to need it to be understood by anyone else but you. It's not going to matter if someone approves of you, because you won't need them to. You will have already accepted and loved yourself. So here's your action step for the week. I want you to identify something that you need. It could be, we're talking like fundamental need here, not like I need some new flip-flops. That would be great. I wish that for you. But I'm talking about like a core need, like to be seen, to be valued, to be heard, to feel supported, that type of need. So identify something that you really need on a central human core level. And then I want you to give that to yourself in a loving, mindful, and empowered way. Meaning you're not giving yourself that by hurting someone else intentionally. You're not giving yourself that in a compulsive way, meaning it's not related to a compulsion that is actually an unhealthy habit that doesn't serve you. That means you meet that need for yourself in a way that is just for yourself. It's not ostentatious. You don't need to be screaming to anybody in your world, hey guys, I'm meeting my own needs. That defeats the purpose, right? Again, that's more of that, hey, see me, validate me. You meeting your needs for yourself is for yourself. So that's often a really small gesture, like telling yourself you were brave, hugging yourself because you need a hug. It could also be something bigger, like you venting all your frustrations by journaling for half an hour because you feel disappointed by something that didn't happen at your work. Whatever it is, give yourself permission to have that need, to want that need, and then give yourself what you need intentionally with self-love, self-awareness, and self-empowerment. And the more that you do that, the more that you show up for yourself and you show up for your healing journey with that courage, with that presence, with that commitment, the less it's going to matter what anyone else does. And again, naturally, the magic of a meaningful and productive healing journey is that you don't need to really do anything externally. All the external shit just changes on its own because you have fundamentally changed on a core level. And that is the transformation that matters most. Thank you so much for joining me today in The Simple Source. I hope this episode has inspired you, reminded you of your healing power, and reawakened you to who your true and highest self is. If the show has empowered and enlightened your self-love, growth, and healing journey, please share this episode, leave a positive review on Apple or Spotify, and subscribe to be reminded of new episodes. I am so grateful for your presence, and all of your comments and your support are seen and read and deeply appreciated. They really do help this show so much. Also, sign up for my newsletter, The Weekly Source, to get more healing tips, motivation stories, and to get to know me better. And if you haven't read my book, Unconditional, You Are Perfect As You Are, I invite you to get your copy today and start reading. And lastly, I would love to see you inside my Source membership, the only holistic and comprehensive step-by-step self-healing program that is proven to work. It's time to stop struggling to heal and time to learn how to thrive more simply and joyfully. All the links are in the show notes. Thanks again for joining me today, and I will see you next time.